Vincent, you are an engagement specialist. What does that mean? It's not to do with weddings, is it?
No, not at all, not even remotely. It's a good question, and it's not like I'm a plumber or an electrician where it's very obvious from the label what it is.
Yeah.
So I help companies, I help business people engage their people. So
Right.
I'm a trainer, I'm a speaker, I'm an event host and those sorts of things.
So when you say engagement, what do you mean by that?
Well, the literal term of employee engagement, for example,
Yeah.
is people doing more than they have to because they choose to.
Right.
So we talk about employee motivation, we talk about employee morale, we talk about happiness.
Yeah.
But what the evidence shows actually makes a difference is this thing called engagement, where people, they do more than they have to because they choose to. They show up, they've got a mission, they work with people that they like, admire, respect, they're getting additional skills, and they can see something coming out the other end that makes a difference.
Right. So what kinds of things can a business owner do to help their people be happier and more engaged?
Well, develop them in terms of their skill, give them some sense of autonomy and control, and the big one at the end, purpose. So I talk about mastery, autonomy and purpose. If you ever read Dan Pink, that's what he talks about in terms of employee engagement.
Yeah.
And so a man on the moon, a computer on every desktop, what is it that this company is actually trying to do? And what am I contributing to that?
Right. Okay. So it's about a person knowing why they're there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Why bother showing up for work every day?
Yeah. And I've got to be honest at this point, Cath. I've got a confession to make.
Oh, honesty.
So this has all been so very serious so far. And it's a great chance on your show to give you a bit of an exclusive,
Yeah.
a exclusive.
Drum roll. Did you hear that?
So I also have a secret double life.
Uh-oh.
So in addition to all this serious business stuff and
Yeah.
engaging employees for bosses, for revenue and profitability and so forth, I'm also a professional stand-up comedian.
Yeah. Now that is like a kind of complete schizophrenic in action, isn't it?
Well, I do try and keep it a secret double life, but
I don't think it's a secret anymore.
no. Well, surprisingly, maybe not surprisingly, a lot of my clients, once they find out, are thrilled to bits.
Yeah.
And it's hard for me to kind of keep it under wraps. In my training courses, for example, they're a lot of fun, time simply flies by, and the feedback's, a lot of it is around the humour.
Well, it would be hard to keep it a secret because I think the first time I saw you, you were actually on stage, you know, not in a corporate environment, but actually being hilarious. So.
I think about 87 seconds is my record for keeping it under wraps
Yeah.
until I say something either clever or not clever enough.
Yeah. So how did you get into being a stand-up comedian? It sounds very different from doing engagement and the corporate environment.
And again, good question. I wasn't the funny guy at school. I wasn't the class clown. And I wasn't, even in my group of friends, I'm not the funny guy. But I was maybe 2001, 2002, had young children, 2 and 4. And at that, I was in a very samey job, you know, a good job, but very routine, very run-of-the-mill. I was feeling a little bit square peg in a round hole.
Been there, done that,
As many people.
Yeah, not there now.
Great, and good decision, well made.
Thank you.
And a lot of people, they just get slapped with an external event that makes that decision for them.
Yeah.
But your choice and my choice was deliberate and proactive.
Yes.
So young kids, world of discovery, every day's a new day. Wow, the sky's blue again, what are the odds? And I want some of that back.
Yeah, kids are great for that.
Not childish, but childlike spirit.
Yes.
So from that point on, I invented my thing, which is every year I resolved to do 2 new dangerous things.
Ooh.
2 dangerous things a year is my slogan, if you like. And that first year happened to be snow skiing and stand-up comedy.
Yeah, I would probably rather do stand-up comedy than snow skiing. Yeah,
Oh,
not very coordinated in that way.
No,
Yeah.
same as it turned out, and it's really expensive and overrated.
Well, the hospital stay.
The chairlifts, that's outrageously stressful. But I did my first gig, absolutely killed, knocked it out of the park. Second and third gig, died on my butt.
Oh, really?
Fourth gig, back on the horse, and I've done 1,000 since.
So you know what it's like to be brilliant on stage, and you know what it's like to die on stage.
Absolutely, and that's the exposure I think is really useful for people outside of comedy. Not everyone's going to be a comedian, and nor should they.
Yeah.
But the whole notion of putting yourself out there, not waiting for an external life event to happen like the heart attack or the breakup or the job loss, but to deliberately and incrementally create these opportunities where you almost immunise yourself against change.
Yeah, I like that. Immunise yourself. I guess, you know, we don't do stuff because we're kind of scared and it shrinks our lives.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what next for you? Like, you know, what kind of crazy things are you doing now? How do you stay finding things that frighten you?
Well, that's, I guess, as you get older and life changes, new things come along. Some of the things I've done in the past, I try not to pre-think it. So I've done the jumping out of planes, I've done the bungee jumping, I've done the motor racing and so forth. And now it's getting into things like, I spent a year learning how to play guitar and singing, despite having no ability at all, naturally at all.
Yeah.
And then performing before a couple hundred people at a little show.
Oh, right. I was going to say, playing guitar and singing, even if you're not very good, it's not that scary, but...
No, it's that going out in front of people and actually doing it. And I'm sure there are musicians who would say the same thing about comedy.
Yeah.
But again, with immunisation, I'm desensitised now.
Yeah.
I've got a gig next weekend. I had a gig last Wednesday at a little pub in Ponsonby. Pretty high risk. You know, some people are there just to eat dinner. And you suddenly show up with a microphone in front of them telling what may be jokes.
Yes, and they start throwing bread rolls.
Oh, there's none of that, but generally you do hear it's the clunk of the cutlery that's soul-destroying.
Yeah.
So, and again, after 15 years, you don't live on the highs of the roller coaster, you don't die on the lows of the roller coaster, and you see the new comedians coming through. They do. They get ecstatic with every success and they get diminished with every failure.
Yeah.
But after 1,000, it's just...
So most of the things that you've talked about on a fear basis seem like adrenaline-based things, you know, jumping out of planes and tackling very scary things, obviously. But what can you do if you're not sporty or adventurous in that way? Well,
again, some people it's simply quitting the job. I was having a wee chat before with someone about how this all sort of turned out the way it did. And the first date was 2001, 2002 when I started doing comedy. But there's a phrase we use in comedy, don't give up your day job. And at some point you do. And for me that was 2008. I quit the day job. I've been sort of incrementally building up the comedy business and the speaking and the training on the side. And I thought, well, if not me, who? If not now, when? I quit my day job. And about 65 seconds later, the global financial crisis happened.
Yeah, nice.
Oh, okay, let's pay some rent now, shall we? And so those little things, that was going to happen anyway. And some people, would you rather have 25 years of unhappiness doing a job you don't really like that just pays the bills and then look back with regret? It's the classic survey done of people who work in hospices and things like that, talking to people and their regrets on their deathbed. And I forget the exact number, but something like 85% aren't regrets about things they did. It's things they didn't do.
Totally. Well, don't regret things that you didn't do. That's your message for today, isn't it?
Very much so.
Thanks very much for joining us.
Thanks, Cath.